One WNBA shoe really did disappear from Adidas almost as soon as fans could buy it. The other shoe cancellation everybody is talking about appears not to exist. That is the twist inside the DiJonai Carrington and Sophie Cunningham story. Cunningham's bright pink Adidas Crazy Energy player exclusive release became an immediate sellout story. That part is real. Carrington's Reebok partnership being cancelled after a supposed tantrum at Shaquille O'Neal? The available evidence says something very different. Reebok still lists Carrington on its official basketball roster. So how did a real sneaker success story, a real Flagrant 2 foul, and a real social media controversy get stitched together into a claim that does not match the timeline? That is where this gets interesting. Start with Sophie Cunningham's shoe. Adidas announced its WNBA Crazy Energy pack on July 23, 2026. The pack included player-exclusive colorways connected to Sato Sabally and Cunningham, along with the WNBA All-Star Edition. Cunningham's version leaned completely into her public image. Loud pink, personal details, Midwestern references, and the kind of design that was clearly meant to be recognizable before anyone even saw the name on the box. The release date was July 24th. The price was $110, and buyers moved fast. Reports from multiple sports and sneaker outlets said most sizes vanished within hours. By Friday morning, the shoe had essentially disappeared from Adidas online inventory, with limited availability elsewhere. Cunningham reacted by thanking supporters for showing up. That is a legitimate commercial win. But there are two details that matter if we want to understand what actually happened. First, this was a player-exclusive colorway of the Adidas Crazy Energy, not a full Sophie Cunningham signature model built from the ground up around her name. That does not make the sellout meaningless. A player-exclusive release still represents a real brand investment and real consumer demand. It simply means we should describe the product accurately. Second, and this changes the entire viral narrative, the shoe sold out on July 24th. The Carrington foul happened on August 8th. That is roughly 2 weeks later. WNBA Sports News script, voiceover ready, page 3. So the idea that Cunningham's shoes sold out because fans watched Carrington hit her and then rushed to stores as some kind of revenge purchase does not work chronologically. The shoes were already gone. That does not make the contrast between the two players less fascinating. It makes it more honest. Cunningham had already built enough attention around herself that a limited Adidas release could generate a rush before the biggest controversy between her and Carrington ever happened. That tells us something about marketability. But it does not tell us anything yet about Reebok canceling Carrington. For that, we have to go back to what Carrington actually signed. In April 2025, Reebok announced Carrington as part of its returning basketball push. It was a multi-year endorsement agreement. She joined a roster that included Angel Reese and other basketball athletes as Reebok tried to rebuild its identity in the sport under Shaquille O'Neal and Allen Iverson. Carrington's father, former NFL player Darren Carrington, had also been associated with Reebok. That family history was part of the public announcement. But there is a big difference between saying Carrington was proud to continue a family connection and saying she only got the deal because of her father. The second claim is speculation unless somebody involved in the negotiations says that. Carrington had her own basketball resume when Reebok signed her. She was coming off the 2024 WNBA Most Improved Player Award. She had made the all-defensive first team. She had produced the best season of her career. Reebok publicly described her toughness, energy, and presence as reasons she fit the brand. That is the documented version. Now fast forward to 2026, Reebok's official basketball site still lists DiJonai Carrington on the roster. Not a cached fan page, not an old social media graphic. The brand's own basketball roster. She has also appeared in promotion connected to the Engine A26, Reebok's current performance basketball line. WNBA Sports News script, voiceover ready, page 4. That is a major problem for the claim that she just lost the deal. If Reebok had terminated a multi-year athlete contract after one of the most public WNBA controversies of the season, you would expect something. A company statement, a credible business report, a sports business reporter confirming the split, Carrington removing the partnership, Reebok removing her from its roster, some form of independently verifiable evidence. Right now, the strongest current evidence points the other way. She is still listed. There is also no credible evidence that Reebok had announced a DiJonai Carrington signature shoe that was, then canceled. Carrington has been associated with Reebok's Engine A line. That is not the same thing as having a personal signature model scheduled for release. So when the title says hers is canceled, the first question should be simple. What exactly was canceled? A signature shoe. There is no verified signature shoe announcement to cancel. Her endorsement? Reebok still lists her. A specific player-exclusive colorway. No credible cancellation announcement has surfaced. That does not mean a brand can never make a private decision before the public hears about it. Companies change marketing plans all the time, but a private possibility is not a public fact, and until evidence appears, the script has to keep that line clear. The controversy that is verified began on the court. August 8th, WNBA Sports News script, voiceover ready, page 5. Indiana against Chicago. Cunningham broke ahead in transition and attacked the basket. Carrington chased the play from behind and made forceful contact high around Cunningham's head and neck area. Cunningham hit the floor. She got up immediately and confronted Carrington. Teammates stepped between them. Officials reviewed the play and upgraded it to a flagrant 2. Carrington was ejected. That part is not a rumor. The officiating crew ruled the contact unnecessary and excessive enough for automatic removal from the game. Indiana eventually won 90-86. The next part is where the basketball story became a social media story. Carrington posted white privilege and tagged the Indiana Fever. Cunningham rejected the implication that race explained the ejection. She noted that she herself had previously been thrown out for a similar type of play and said she deserved that punishment. That disagreement became national content almost immediately. Commentators debated what Carrington meant. Fans argued about the foul. Political and cultural arguments that were already surrounding Cunningham became attached to the play. Then Carrington responded publicly to commentator Emmanuel Acho after he criticized the post. Carrington said she had never claimed the assessment of the foul itself was white privilege and argued that people were making assumptions about what she meant. She defended her education on the subject and insisted she would not use the phrase casually. That response was defiant. It was public. It was controversial, but it was not a tantrum about Reebok. That distinction matters because the more dramatic version of the story takes real comments from one controversy and quietly moves them into another controversy that has not been verified. Carrington did post again about the next Fever Sky meeting, writing 8/23 inches with a smiling emoji. That clearly added heat to the rematch. Again, real. But nothing about that post confirms a sponsorship cancellation, and nothing about it shows Carrington attacking Shaquille O'Neal over a business decision. Shaq really is Reebok basketball's president. That part is true. He and Allen Iverson have been leading the brand's attempt to regain relevance in basketball. Shaq has talked publicly about being selective with athletes and about using personality, culture, and authenticity to make Reebok matter to a younger generation again. That makes him naturally relevant whenever somebody on Reebok's roster becomes controversial. But relevance is not evidence. Being the president of Reebok basketball does not mean every internet rumor about an athlete deal automatically came from Shaq. The easiest way to create a viral story is to place recognizable names next to each other. Carrington, Cunningham, Reebok, Adidas, Shaq, a foul, a sold-out shoe. Now the headline almost writes itself. The problem is that the timeline does not. Cunningham's release happened July 24th. Carrington hit Cunningham August 8th. The Reebok roster still includes Carrington after the controversy. That is why this story is actually more useful as a lesson about how sports business narratives form online. A real event gives the story energy, a real controversy gives it emotion, then one unsupported claim gives it a perfect ending. The perfect ending here is obvious. One player gets rewarded, the other gets punished. One shoe sells out, the other athlete loses her sponsor. It feels symmetrical. Real life is rarely that neat. The true Sophie Cunningham business story does not need the Carrington cancellation rumor to be impressive. Her Adidas release sold out rapidly. That is enough. And the timing tells us her marketability had already accelerated before the August controversy. Cunningham has become one of the most visible non-superstar names in women's basketball. That phrase matters. She is not putting up Caitlin Clark scoring numbers. She is not an MVP-level player. She is not the primary offensive engine of Indiana. Her business value comes from a different combination: role player credibility, a recognizable personality, social media reach, memorable moments, an audience that follows her outside the box score. That is extremely valuable to brands. A company does not need every athlete to be the best player in the league. It needs athletes who can create a connection between a product and a specific group of customers. Cunningham has demonstrated that ability. The shoe sellout is one data point. Her growing list of partnerships is another. Her visibility outside basketball is another. But even here there is a caution. We do not know how many pairs Adidas produced. That matters. Selling out 1,000 pairs and selling out 100,000 pairs are both technically sellouts. Without inventory numbers, nobody can responsibly turn sold out into a precise statement about revenue or market share. The correct conclusion is narrower. Demand exceeded available supply quickly. That is meaningful. It is not the same thing as proving Cunningham is now the biggest shoe seller in the WNBA. Now apply the same discipline to Carrington. Reebok signed her to a multi-year deal. She remains on its current roster. She is connected to a performance model rather than a verified personal signature shoe. Could the controversy affect how often the company features her? Possibly. Could Reebok privately review the partnership? Of course. Brands review athlete relationships constantly. Could the company eventually decide to make a change? Yes. But none of those possibilities equals Reebok canceled her. So the most responsible question is not, why did Shaq cancel Carrington? It is, has Reebok actually changed Carrington's status? As of the current public evidence, the answer is no. That creates an interesting contrast with public reaction. Carrington's posts generated intense criticism. Some people believed she was raising a legitimate issue about race and broader treatment in the league. Others believed attaching the phrase white privilege to the situation was unfair or inflammatory. Carrington later argued that critics had misunderstood exactly what she was alleging. That debate is real, but an online backlash does not automatically become a corporate punishment. Sometimes brands cut ties quickly, sometimes they issue statements, sometimes they stay silent, sometimes they wait, and sometimes the viral claim about a brand decision is simply wrong. Reebok's current roster page is valuable because it gives us something concrete. Carrington is there. That does not tell us everything happening behind the scenes. It tells us enough to reject a definitive cancellation claim today. Cunningham had a specific retail moment. Carrington has a multi-year ambassador relationship. The success of one does not automatically mean the failure of the other. That is the key point. Sports marketing is not always a zero-sum game. One WNBA player's shoes can sell out while another WNBA player remains valuable to a different brand for different reasons. In fact, that is what a growing league should produce: more athletes with different audiences, more shoe companies competing, more player exclusives, more signature models, more off-court revenue. The WNBA benefits when the commercial ecosystem becomes bigger than one or two superstars. Cunningham's sellout is evidence of that growth. Carrington's Reebok deal was evidence of the same thing when it was announced in 2025. The controversy between them should not erase that broader trend. It should also not stop people from criticizing real decisions. Carrington's Flagrant 2 can be criticized. Her white privilege post can be debated. Her explanation can be examined. Cunningham's response can be analyzed. The officiating can be discussed. All of that is fair because it is public. But once the story moves into Reebok fired her and she screamed at Shaq, the evidence disappears. That is the boundary. And ironically, the real story has a stronger twist than the invented one. Cunningham did not need the August foul to sell shoes. She had already sold them out. Carrington did not lose Reebok because of the August foul, at least not based on any current public evidence. She is still listed by the brand. So instead of a revenge story, what we actually have is a snapshot of two very different kinds of athlete branding. Cunningham is converting a sudden rise in cultural visibility into direct retail demand. Carrington is navigating a public controversy while remaining part of Reebok's basketball roster. One is a proven sales moment, the other is a reputation test. Those are different stories. And reputation tests can matter. Reebok's leadership has been explicit about wanting athletes who fit the identity it is trying to build. Shaq has talked about strategic selections. A brand rebuilding its basketball business will naturally pay attention to how its athletes are discussed. So Carrington's future relationship with Reebok is still worth watching. Not because we know it has ended, because we know it has not publicly ended, and the next official action will tell us whether the controversy changed anything. Does Reebok continue featuring her in campaigns? Does she keep wearing the Engine A line? Does she appear in future basketball marketing? Does her name remain on the roster? Those are measurable signals. That is where the story goes next. The same applies to Cunningham. A sold-out first-player exclusive colorway creates a logical business question. What does Adidas do with the demand? Another PE? A wider release? More inventory? A larger campaign? Eventually a true signature product? Those outcomes are not guaranteed. But those are the next steps that would turn one successful limited drop into a durable sneaker business. That is much more interesting than pretending one sellout already proves everything. Carrington faces a different test. Can she move the conversation back toward basketball and brand value after a controversy that became bigger than the foul itself? Her response to criticism suggests she is not backing away from what she said. That may appeal to some fans and alienate others. Brands know that authenticity can be commercially powerful even when it is polarizing. The business question is whether the audience an athlete gains is more valuable than the audience the athlete loses. That calculation is not made by YouTube thumbnails. It is made with sales data, engagement, campaign results, and long-term brand strategy. That is why official evidence matters. Cunningham's Adidas PE sold quickly. Carrington signed a multi-year Reebok deal and is still listed by the brand. Shaquille O'Neal is Reebok Basketball's president, but there is no verified announcement that he canceled Carrington's contract, scrapped a signature shoe, or became the target of a Carrington tantrum. The real August controversy is already dramatic enough. Carrington commits a flagrant 2. Cunningham confronts her. Carrington posts white privilege. Cunningham rejects that framing. Carrington later defends her words publicly. Fans split into camps. A rematch gets more attention. All of that happened. We do not need to manufacture the corporate ending. And the Sophie shoe story is already impressive without pretending it happened afterward. That is what separates an engaging sports news video from a rumor video. You can keep the tension. You can keep the controversy. You can keep the personalities. You just have to put the events in the right order. July 24th, Sophie's Crazy Energy PE goes on sale and sells through quickly. August 8th, Carrington commits the flagrant 2 and is ejected. After the game, Carrington posts the white privilege message. August 11th, she publicly defends her wording against criticism. Current Reebok roster, DiJonai Carrington is still there. That timeline changes the conclusion. This is not a story about Sophie winning a shoe war because Reebok punished Carrington. It is a story about how quickly real business success can be turned into evidence for an unrelated rumor. And it is a reminder that the WNBA's growing popularity has created a new economy around every viral moment. Shoes, endorsements, podcasts, social media, brand partnerships, merchandise. Every controversy now has a commercial angle waiting behind it. Sometimes that angle is real. Sometimes the internet invents the last chapter before the company has written it. This time the sold-out shoe is real. The canceled Carrington deal is not verified. And until Reebok says otherwise, the official roster is a stronger source than any viral post claiming Shaq has already shown her the door. So the next question is not whether DiJonai Carrington has already lost Reebok. The question is whether the controversy eventually changes a partnership that is still publicly active, and whether Sophie Cunningham's first sellout becomes the beginning of a much bigger Adidas business. Which development would matter more to the WNBA long-term? Brands rewarding athletes who can move, product, or brands becoming quicker to distance themselves from controversy?